Okay, guys, how we doing? Here we are. It's Wednesday, the 24th of July here. Now, just looking at the polling results, you got a pretty good spread out today. EOS to Bitcoin was one of the most requested here. We hadn't looked at this in a while, and I think this is worth taking a look here today. Now, we've been through a couple of counts here, and there's certainly a couple of different ways this could be counted. If I can, I'm always looking to try and simplify, if possible. And we could probably, we've looked at a couple of variations here. But I think one, this is the simplest count here that we can identify. And I think the symmetry actually plays better than some of the alternates that we had previously considered, which had this in a combination. Now, if this turns out to be the low and this starts to rip here and we break some of the resistance going up, we may be back here revisiting, because essentially we've got a three-wave structure here. But it is certainly implying, per the count here, that the likely path here would come up and kick a 4 and then come down here for a 5 to complete the larger, which obviously you can see it here, so the larger ABC with a target down here. Now, interestingly, so I have an algo target here relative to this pull here, right? So we're kind of in the middle. You have to look here with that lack of precision. Is it a secondary pivot, something else that was used along the way? Hard to know, hard to say, right? So when in doubt, I'll just go to what I know was used at some degree here. So with the dominant, right, and then completing the 5 down is pretty hard to miss, right? Nice triangle. And we literally get an A, B, C, D, E in the 4 before the last rip, and that now this. I will say this is a bit of a disappointment, because it looked like the potential was here for an ABC. You could probably count this as the 1, 2, and so you've got a clear 5 here, a clear 3 here. You could definitely have counted this. There's a couple of ways you could have done it to have us finish here, and there was a reasonably strong case that we had an impulse coming here off the low, right? You can just see it, right? So 3, 4 sure looked like an impulse, but that's not what we get. So we have to turn it into an ABC. It's not, I am on a 12-hour here. So if you bring it back down, it's not outrageous. It's not an outrageous force fit. The 3 of the B is pretty solid, and yeah, it's an ugly, with the depth of the 4 here, it's an ugly diagonal, but there's your 5. Yeah, it's there, but so of course you could have thought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You can see how easily that would have been what this structure here was implying, but we don't get it, right? So you have to revisit it and say, well, can it work as an ABC? Yeah, I think we can, right? It wouldn't be the preferred count, but this is what we're stuck with. So let's see, pulling up, go back to a 4 here. Oops, going back here. It's ABC, right? It's there are some. You can see here, revisit here. This is just basic structure here, market profile here. You can see point of control is sitting here. Now, granted, that is visible range here, but it's not going to move much. So you can just kind of see it, right? So from here, looks like this is technical, right? All right, you do this long enough, you can just eyeball them. There's 50, likely a front run on the target. Now, I think we break here on the way back down, if I'm not mistaken. Here we do get a break here of the golden zone. All right, we get a slight break here. So yet again, looked like it had the ingredients for a motive, but we don't get it. And it's a bit sloppy here with the break here. So it doesn't invalidate the Elliott count. We know 2 can easily, much like a B, anywhere 50 to 786. Now the 1 coming down, it's a little skinny on the 1. You got to dig the 1. So you do have the subdivision here to get an impulse. Now, where's your 2, right? It's a bit of a guesstimate as to what's there. Show sub-micro here. I'll put that in green. So, where's your 2? You're gonna have to work with what's there. So you don't have much in the retrace of the 2, but the general 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's hard to see that as an ABC. Just the length of this move, it looks much more consistent with an impulse here in the shallow 4. There's potential that this could be relabeled, but right now, even just playing the odds, this is most likely our path here. Now, as we come up here, so we can take the algo target off of this. Nice little channel being shaped here. We've got 3 of the 4 pivots. So pull this down here. Get that right on there. So 1, you'd have to work it as, you'd have to go, you can see it, it's there. The 5 is there, A, B, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got the A, B, C into my 2. This, right, as we just talked about, a little skinny, right? Certainly skinny, but it's 3, 4, 5. The basic structure is there. It's just essentially, it's the free fall. So as we consider the retrace, well, just standard ops, right? Same thing we would do for any, trying to identify where we might anticipate that wave 4. So length of the 3rd, well, there's the impulse. This is the critical pivot. So if we're going to come back here now, is this, looks like maybe the start on something. It's hard to call that anything other than, maybe the start on the A wave. I don't think you want to lean into the idea that the low is in, much as I'm a long-term EOS bull, but this is not good enough for me to be a buyer here. The overall count is just way too bearish. So I'd be anticipating that we're just going to find our way through some sort of a 3 here, and then that sets up for the final move down. Let's hope. Now you got to pay attention to both the larger algo play. This would have us finishing, and then here's 0. Right? Do I think we're going to 0? No, I do not. But if I have the opportunity to buy EOS down here, oh my God, I would be surprised if we do go this low. I mean, the count, right? It's because you're just looking at thinking, right? Knowing how strong a project this is. If we're going down, if EOS is going this low, alts are in a world of hurt, as far as I'm concerned. I say that and I peek over at Bitcoin selling off a little bit today. So it could be that we're not ready to go yet. Certainly the alts are not ready to go. Right? There's a few that are running, but EOS is a bit of a tell here. Certainly as a major player in that, amongst the alts. So if this is 3, I mean, it's hard to argue with the logic of being a seller there. I wouldn't go with large size, right? But if you're comfortable on the short side, it's hard to argue with the logic of that being a sell. I would likely not take it, right? So, but I would be just with backing the bloody truck up if I can get it down here. That's, with 0 here, yeah, that's a risk I'll take. If offered, right? Now, it may not, right? But if it comes down here, I would start here. I'd buy 50% here, the other 50 here. If we don't come down here, now we do have that structure. Now look all the way. You got to come. God darn, that thing's still always off to the left. Let's go. I think I can see it in the 8. So note what I've wicked off here. This is the low when it hits Binance here. This is the lowest low we get. So if we're going to come down to that level right here with 0 that close. Like I said, that's the risk reward there is so enormous. I'm not going to put it up, right? Because I don't. It's just looking at the prior high here. If we're going to get another alt run, and some people will suggest that is a question mark. I don't think it is a question mark. So if we're going to get the opportunity to be a buyer down here, I would buy that and not look at it again. Right. I mean, I wouldn't even worry about a stop, right? 0 is your stop. You just buy it and hold it, right? If you get the opportunity to buy that, right? That's the kind of thing you buy it, just tuck it away, check on it a year from now. Right? That's not how a trader. Obviously, that's not a trader's perspective. That's just accumulating something that you anticipate will have value over time. So I'm not really making a suggestion here of a trade. But if you work through the count, you can certainly understand how you could finish down here. Right. So now you want to be more conservative. If we come down into this zone, wait for the first move out, get your motive wave, and then take the retrace, right? You're not giving that much back, or pardon me, missing that much. You don't need to pick the low, right, to get this to start to come out of here. That would be my anticipation. Right, so I think, right, if you're aggressive, there's just a beautiful short setting up here. I stop over the pivot of the 1. So again, I wouldn't go heavy there. But if you get the opportunity to buy down here, I'd at least grab some, just to push back here. Of course, the all the way is way up here. And so if we're going to get an alt season, maybe it's this year, maybe it's next year, maybe if it comes, a challenge of that high, yeah, I'd be willing to take the risk myself. Well, there you go. So pretty straightforward, right? And I would not be a buyer here at the moment, right? I mean, even now you can just see, just looking at it here, as we come up here, what are we running into? We're just running into that prior structure, right? So is that going to be, now we're not to the 23, so I think we're still trying to put in the A wave here. I don't think we're done here. Just the count doesn't support it. Right, so you could trade into the ABC, into the 4, but I'd be realistic about how far you think that's going to go. All right, guys, there we go. That's a pretty straightforward one. All right, back to you in a little bit.